Nothing about you being here right now is an accident. Trust the pull that led you to this message today, because it found you for a reason. You have been carrying something heavy and quiet for a while now, hoping for anything that might settle the storm that keeps stirring inside you. Most of this you have carried alone, worried that if you tried to explain it, people would brush it off as overthinking or as your imagination running wild. But that soft, steady voice inside you has always known more than anything the outside world tried to convince you of. It stayed with you through your loneliest nights, whispering to you even when you tried to drown it out with noise or distraction. You did not invent this feeling on purpose. It is something real, something that has been growing inside you, and it has reached a point where you can no longer pretend it isn't there. What if the feeling you keep circling back to isn't a burden at all? What if it's actually a signal coming from a wiser part of you, trying to point you towards something true? The reason it refuses to fade is because it isn't coming from your surface thoughts. It's coming from a deeper kind of knowing, one your conscious mind is only just beginning to catch up with. Something inside you is stirring awake, and it's handing you a kind of clarity that your old fears spent years trying to keep buried. There was a time you tried to talk yourself out of this. You told your own heart to quiet down, that this intensity couldn't possibly be real, that it was too much, too strange, too hard to explain. But it kept resurfacing anyway, again and again, because some part of you refused to let it go. There is a reason this keeps finding its way back into your awareness, and none of it is by chance. What you're starting to understand now is exactly why your emotions respond so intensely to this one particular person. This bond isn't ordinary. It carries a weight that stays present even through distance, even through long stretches of silence between you. That silence is not hollow. It is full of meaning, full of feeling, full of a connection that keeps humming quietly beneath the surface, even when nothing outward seems to be happening. Your intuition doesn't fade because your heart is simply faster at understanding things than your logical mind is at explaining them. None of this is random or fleeting. It feels like recognition on a level that goes deeper than thought, something your inner self remembers even when your rational mind can't quite put words to it. The more you try to reason it away, the stronger it seems to come back. It keeps pulling you back into that same inner space, showing you, again and again, that this connection came into your life for a reason. You are not making this up, and you have not lost your grip on reality. These feelings are rising from somewhere higher than your everyday thinking. When you listen past the fear, you start to see that this isn't just attraction. It's alignment with something that mirrors who you really are underneath everything. Your mind, shaped by old wounds and self-protection, might try to file this away as risky or uncertain, but some deeper part of you already knows there is real meaning here. A genuine soul-level connection tends to carry signs that are hard to fake or force into existence. One of those signs is an unusual sense of calm. Even when the other person isn't around, there's a quiet knowing somewhere inside you that the bond still exists in some form, even without constant contact or reassurance. That calm comes from the part of you that already trusts what's meant for you will find its way back, one way or another. This connection also works like a mirror, reflecting parts of yourself you had buried or ignored. It pushes you to grow, not simply for the sake of the other person, but for your own expansion and inner strength. This whole experience feels like it carries a weight and purpose bigger than an average encounter. The feeling doesn't fade the way ordinary attachments tend to. Logic alone can't erase it, because some part of you refuses to treat it as something closed and finished. If this really is meant to happen, you might wonder why there has been so much silence, so much distance. Those questions can feel exhausting to sit with. But not everything unfolds in a straight line or on an immediate timeline. What has taken root deep inside you doesn't simply vanish because time has passed or because you've been apart. Some connections go quiet, not because they're dying, but because both people involved need room to grow as individuals first. There's a bigger process happening beneath the surface, one you can't fully see yet from where you're standing. Life often works on both sides quietly before bringing two people back into alignment. What feels like distance isn't meaningless. It's a stretch of inner development that both of you are going through, even if your mind resists accepting that. Something in this experience is still unfolding, still in motion, still unfinished. This is not the end of your story with this connection. Think of it more like a pause, a space where unseen work is happening behind the scenes. During this stretch of time, both people are being shaped by experiences that build emotional resilience, self-awareness, and clarity. The space between you exists to support growth, not to punish either of you. It gives both people room to become more grounded, so that if and when you do meet again, it happens from a steadier, more solid place than before. Nothing in this process goes to waste. Even if it feels murky right now, there is a kind of order moving through all of this, even when it's hard to see. What was planted deep within you doesn't just disappear. It keeps existing through the silence, through the changes, through the uncertainty that surrounds it. Real love, in its truest shape, doesn't simply vanish into nothing. It shifts, it tests you, and it teaches you. Confusion tends to show up when fear and intuition are pulling in opposite directions at the same time, and that tension you feel is part of waking up to a deeper kind of understanding. This distance isn't really absence. It's alignment happening slowly and quietly in the background. Old emotional patterns are being cleared out so something healthier has room to form in their place. If this had happened before either of you was ready, the connection might have become shaky or overwhelming. This pause is protective in its own way. It gives emotional balance the chance to develop so that if the connection returns, it comes back from a place of steadiness instead of confusion or imbalance. It's almost like both of your lives are being quietly rearranged so you can meet again with more awareness the next time around. This time apart also pushes you inward. It nudges you to build a stronger relationship with yourself, so love doesn't become something you get lost inside of, but something that actually supports your growth instead. Distance becomes its own kind of teacher. It stirs up fears around loneliness, doubt, and emotional insecurity, giving you the chance to face those fears and finally set them down. Through this process, you become more whole within yourself, less dependent on someone else's approval or presence to feel complete. As you grow, the energy between you shifts too. It doesn't disappear, it just changes shape, becoming more aligned with emotional maturity and clarity than it was before. At the same time, the other person is going through their own internal journey. Even if their actions look distant or scattered from the outside, that doesn't mean they feel nothing. What sometimes looks like avoidance is really an internal struggle playing out. People often wrestle with their own emotions long before they're able to understand them clearly. Silence can come from being overwhelmed by feeling, not from a lack of feeling. Inner resistance can create distance even while the connection underneath stays fully intact. This process can be just as confusing and difficult for them as it is for you. Eventually, both sides arrive at moments of clarity. There comes a point where emotional truth grows stronger than fear. At that stage, Avoidance simply can't hold back what's already been felt so deeply. When any reconnection happens, it won't be built on confusion or nostalgia alone. It will come from genuine acceptance and emotional honesty. The walls that once stood begin to soften, letting truth come forward more openly than before. Timing plays a huge role in this kind of connection. Things tend to line up only once both people are actually capable of handling the emotional depth involved. Until that point, life keeps quietly shaping both of you in the background. Your part in all this isn't anxious waiting. It's becoming ready on the inside. It's about settling into a state where your energy feels calm, steady, and whole, rather than needy or uncertain. You're being guided to release fear and emotional tension so that if this connection does return, it meets you at your strongest. Let go of rigid ideas about exactly how or when things are supposed to unfold, and give life room to move naturally instead of forcing it into a script. Forgiveness becomes part of this journey too. Forgive the silence. Forgive the distance. Forgive the confusion that came along with all of it. Not because everything that happened was fine, but because holding on to that tension only weighs down your own growth. These experiences, painful as they were, have shaped your strength. Stay rooted in the peace you're building within yourself. What feels unresolved right now is slowly making its way toward clarity. The silence isn't emptiness, it's transformation happening in a way you can't fully see just yet. The struggle happening inside the other person is just as real as yours. They're not quiet because they've forgotten you. They're quiet because what they feel is still very much alive underneath everything. Even if it's unspoken, even if it's buried under fear, their emotional world hasn't gone still. It's active, even if it's invisible from where you're standing. Inner resistance, pride, and fear often create a silence that looks like indifference from the outside, but underneath it, something is moving. This slow breaking down of old emotional defenses is part of growth. Without it, nothing would truly shift. Old patterns have to soften before new understanding can take their place. Both of you are being shaped by this process, not gently, but in a way that pushes growth and awareness forward. What's happening here isn't random confusion. It's emotional refinement. You're both moving toward a point where clarity becomes stronger than doubt. There will come a moment when emotional truth becomes too loud to ignore or suppress any longer. When that shift arrives, it won't feel complicated. It will feel direct and impossible to miss. What once felt uncertain will start to feel clear in a way that seems almost natural. When that readiness exists on both sides, things begin to realign, not through force, but because both people have reached a kind of emotional maturity that allows the connection to exist in a healthier way. Your role right now is to stay open while staying grounded, not waiting around in anxiety, but living from self-respect and emotional balance. That state itself is part of the preparation. Let go of resentment and fear, and allow yourself to grow past the pain of not knowing. Everything you've been through has been shaping you into someone more aware, more stable, and more whole. The silence you're seeing isn't the end. It's part of a bigger process of becoming. What's truly meant for you doesn't disappear just because there's distance. It transforms, it evolves, and it returns only when the timing is right for both people to genuinely meet again. They are getting closer to the point where the pain of living without you finally outweighs the fear of coming back. When that moment arrives, their move won't be impulsive. It won't be temporary. It won't be driven by loneliness or a passing wave of nostalgia. It will come from surrender, a deep surrender of ego to the truth of what this connection actually is. Their return, when it comes, won't be a half-hearted gesture or a confused step forward. It will be the result of real inner change, an honest reckoning with themselves, a letting go of pride, a release of everything that once kept them at a distance, and an acceptance that they can no longer deny what they feel. It will be the realization that the very connection they tried so hard to run from is the one they were always meant to understand and embrace fully. As this turning point gets closer, you may notice the energy around your own life starting to shift as well. In this unfolding moment, pause, breathe deeply, and let your inner voice come through clearly. Ask yourself what signs you've been noticing again and again about this person. Maybe it's a dream that keeps returning out of nowhere. Maybe it's a sudden memory that surfaces at the strangest times. Maybe it's the same numbers following you throughout your day. Or maybe it's a song that keeps showing up in the exact moments you happen to be thinking of them. These moments can feel too well timed to be coincidence. They can feel like quiet messages from something bigger than luck. These aren't accidents. They are signals. They are alignment. They are reminders nudging you toward clarity and understanding. Whatever sign has stayed with you the strongest, acknowledge it. Don't brush it off. Let yourself fully recognize it, even say it out loud if you need to. Signs that bring peace tend to come from something deeper than ego, while signs that bring fear are usually shaped by ego itself. Your intuition already knows how to tell those two apart. You are not imagining this connection. You are not clinging to something that isn't real. You are not hoping for no reason. What you feel carries depth and meaning that go beyond anything surface level. It is worth pausing here to remind yourself of that, because doubt has a way of creeping back in on the hardest days, telling you that maybe you built all of this up in your head. You did not. Real feelings do not survive this long, this consistently, without some kind of foundation underneath them. If this were simply a fantasy, it would have faded long ago under the weight of distance and time. Instead, it kept resurfacing, kept demanding your attention, kept refusing to be filed away as nothing. That persistence is information in itself. And what's real is shifting on both sides, not just within you, but within them too. Something is waking up. Feelings that had been buried are slowly rising back to the surface. Clarity is starting to form where confusion used to live. Truth is emerging where silence used to sit. Everything is moving toward a single moment that already exists somewhere unseen, a moment that feels like it has simply been waiting for its right timing. All of this movement, this quiet awakening, this rising emotion is all building toward that point. This is the unexpected turning point. Life doesn't lead two people through separation, reflection, silence, and personal growth without a reason behind it. Every pause carries meaning. Every stretch of distance serves a purpose. Every lesson is shaping what comes next. The pulling away, the emotional intensity, even the darker moments of reflection, all of it serves a deeper kind of preparation. The healing of old wounds and the releasing of attachment aren't punishments. They are foundations being rebuilt, so something stronger can eventually stand in their place. This turning point won't be subtle or confusing when it comes. You won't have to sit there decoding it endlessly. It will be clear, it will be direct, it will be undeniable the moment it arrives. Timing like this doesn't communicate through vague hints or uncertainty. When the moment truly comes, it becomes obvious in a way that can't be ignored or explained away. It doesn't whisper clues you have to overanalyze for weeks. It becomes a reality you can feel and recognize instantly, without needing anyone to confirm it for you. The gesture that eventually comes forward won't be shallow or accidental. It won't be based on convenience or a temporary rush of emotion. It will come from a place of inner limit, a point where running away simply isn't an option anymore. It will come from someone who has finally understood the full weight of what they've been avoiding all along, someone who realizes that what they tried to silence cannot actually be erased, someone who understands that walking away from this truth causes far more pain than facing it ever could. Their action, when it comes, will carry honesty, humility, and emotional openness, the very qualities they once struggled to show but can no longer keep buried. This kind of timing doesn't show up when the heart is impatient or desperate. It shows up once both people have grown enough to hold the connection without letting fear break it apart again. Life doesn't bring two unhealed people together simply to fix one another. It brings two people who have actually grown together so they can meet from a place of inner steadiness rather than emotional need. This is exactly why the distance had to happen. This is why the silence became part of the journey. This is why both of you were pushed into your own personal reflection. None of it was random. It was preparation, not for someone else, but for your own growth and expansion as a person. Now, as this movement draws closer, your final step is learning to prepare yourself to receive. Being ready to receive doesn't mean sitting around in anxious anticipation. It means bringing your energy into alignment with openness and balance. It means clearing out the emotional clutter inside you, so love has room to enter without resistance standing in the way. Any leftover fear, resentment, or doubt needs to be released so that if reunion does come, it meets you at your fullest, not at your emptiest. It matters that whatever comes next meets you in strength and emotional steadiness, not in old insecurity you never fully worked through. If the same fears that once disrupted this connection are still sitting inside you, they can end up recreating the exact same cycle all over again. This is why the inner work matters so much. Life tends to work through growth, not through repeating old pain. A real, lasting connection can't survive on shaky emotional ground. To be truly open, you also have to loosen your grip on rigid expectations. Stop trying to script out every detail of how this is supposed to unfold. Stop trying to picture every possible moment ahead of time. Don't hold too tightly to one specific outcome, because control tends to block the natural flow of what's actually meant to happen. Letting go of control is its own form of trust, a deeper kind of trust in timing and alignment. Understand that what truly belongs to you doesn't need to be forced into existence. It arrives in its own natural rhythm. When you align yourself with that understanding, you stop standing in the way of what's already trying to reach you. You also need to release any bitterness that might still be lingering inside your emotional space. The ego likes to use old wounds as an excuse for self-protection, but that same bitterness is what keeps your heart closed off. Forgive the silence. Forgive the avoidance. Forgive the confusion that came along with all of it. This doesn't mean approving of everything that happened. It means recognizing it as part of a bigger journey that shaped both of you into who you are now. Their absence played its own part in building your emotional strength and awareness. Every bit of time spent apart contributed to the person you're becoming. Forgiveness, in the end, isn't something you're giving to them. It's something you're giving to yourself, a release that frees you from carrying emotional weight that no longer serves any real purpose in your life. As timing continues to shift things forward, stay grounded in yourself. You may start to notice signs becoming stronger and more frequent. You may feel your intuition sharpening in a way it hasn't before. Even as emotions rise, try to stay centered in your peace. That inner peace is the foundation everything meant to last is built on. Without it, even the most meaningful connections can end up shaky. With it, everything grows stronger and more aligned. Life isn't only preparing the other person to return, it's also preparing you to receive what you once hoped for in a healthier and more complete way than before. Your growth through all of this isn't some side effect of the journey, it's actually the whole point of it. This evolution ensures that if reunion does happen, it won't collapse under old fears or fall back into repeated patterns. Instead, it will rest on awareness, maturity, and emotional clarity that neither of you had the first time around. Everything happening right now is a sign that this long stretch of separation is moving toward its natural completion. The real gift in all of this isn't just the possibility of someone returning to your life. It's the version of you that has emerged from everything you've been through. You are not the same person who started this journey. You carry more understanding now, more emotional strength, and more self-respect than you did before any of this began. These qualities become the ground everything else gets built on going forward. You are not being punished by life. You are being guided into expansion and deeper awareness. From here, you can move forward with a lighter heart as the heaviness you've been carrying finally starts to lift. It helps to remember that none of this growth happens on a fixed schedule you can control. Some days the clarity will feel obvious, and other days the old doubts will creep back in, trying to convince you that none of this is real. That is normal. It does not mean you have lost your footing. It simply means you are human, and healing rarely moves in a straight line. What matters is that you keep returning to that quiet, steady place inside yourself instead of chasing certainty from the outside. Every time you choose peace over panic, you are reinforcing the very foundation that this whole process is trying to build in you. Every time you resist the urge to force an answer, you are proving to yourself that you can hold space for the unknown without falling apart. This is also a good moment to look at how far you have already come, even if it does not feel like much progress from where you are standing. Think about the version of you who first felt this connection stir to life. That version was likely anxious, unsure, maybe even a little afraid of how intense it all felt. Compare that to who you are now, someone who is learning to sit with uncertainty, someone who is choosing self-respect over desperation, someone who understands that real love does not require chasing or convincing. That shift alone is proof that something meaningful has already happened inside you, regardless of what the other person eventually chooses to do. You are not the same person, and that change is not something anyone can take away from you. Whatever happens next, whether this connection returns in the way you imagine or takes a completely different shape, know that the work you are doing right now matters. It is not wasted energy spent hoping for something uncertain. It is the quiet construction of a stronger, steadier version of you, one who will be ready for whatever comes, whether that is this person walking back into your life or a different kind of love finding you altogether. Give yourself permission to prepare calmly, stay centered in your own peace, and let the next chapter of your path unfold in its own time, exactly as it is meant to.